Thank you, Danielle, for joining me for this conversation.
You're
So,
welcome.
my first question for you was, where did you hear about Find Food Freedom, or where did you find us? And what made you say, like, you know what? I want to learn more and I want to do this?
I found you specifically on TikTok. You came up on my For You page, and it was the questions you were asking, like, have you felt like were addicted to food? Or like you had this TikTok that had all these questions, and my answers were all yes. And, I was entrapped in this diet culture. And, I had grown up in a family where like the diet culture was really put on me. And the questions you said to me were right at a breaking point where I was kind of like frustrated with food, didn't know, what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat. And I was very frustrated. And then I came across your TikTok and I was like, oh, and then I clicked and kind of went on. And I was like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Like, I need to find something other than the next big diet because I'm over it. I don't know what to do anymore. And yeah, I found you, and it's a steady uphill climb ever since then.
And I'm so happy that TikTok somehow put us on
That's weird.
your For You page. I still don't understand how the app works to this day.
Yeah.
Um, but so it's funny because before we started recording, obviously you and I had similar conversation. But my question to you now is, how has your relationship with food changed from day one to now?
Oh, it's night and day. Like, I used to be obsessive with my food and almost felt like I was addicted to it. Like, I thought about food every day, all day. When I first woke up in the morning, I was thinking breakfast. And while I was eating breakfast, I was thinking of lunch and dinner. And I was pre planning my meals and weighing them out, and was so obsessive with the amount I was eating. Um, and now I don't think about food at all unless I'm hungry. And it's weird too, like when I was first starting out, like I didn't know if I even had hunger cues because I'd never even thought of, am I hungry? What do I want to eat? What would satisfy me? Those were things that just never existed in my mind before. And I thought at the very beginning when I was first starting this, how am I ever going to get there? Like, I've been dieting since I was 13 and I'm now 30. Where do I even start? And now, like, I don't think about food at all. It's just a normal thing in my house. I have food that I would, label as forbidden foods or my bad foods that I would say, like, oh, I can't buy that in my house. Like, no, because I'll just eat all of it. And it's, now, like I was saying to you before, like I keep a chocolate bar in my fridge and I forget it's in there and it's been in there for a month. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about this. Maybe I should have some. And then I have a little bit and then I forget about it for another month. Like, that was never a thing before. I would think about that chocolate bar being in the fridge. I'd watch TV in the back of my mind, thinking of that chocolate bar and it was obsessive until I actually went and ate it. And then now it's just, I have so much food that I was per se addicted to before that now I don't even think about. I don't buy it. I walk through in the grocery store, like those aisles that I would never let myself walk through. No issues now. Walk by and I'm like, don't really feel like it some days. And then some days I walk through and I'm like, oh, I haven't had that in a while. Sure, I'll grab it and put it in my cart. Like, there's no guilt associated with it anymore, which is nice. So yeah, definitely feel like I have that freedom with food that I never thought I'd ever get. It's definitely liberating, especially when you've been entrenched in this culture and this mindset that like you're not perfect unless you're eating all these healthy foods and you're not supposed to eat this, eat more of that. And you see it on Pinterest and Instagram and all this stuff, and it's exhausting. And now I feel like, I'm like, that's a lie. That's a lie. I don't listen to it anymore. I'm very neutral with food these days and just with the whole culture itself.
That is amazing. Yes, diet culture is loud, and you now can read through the bullshit and see the
Oh yeah.
truth. And it's been so amazing to watch your transition with food. It's only been like 6 or 7 months, and to just see the where it was day one versus where it is now, it's just like night and day difference. And so this is a really broad question. You can go anywhere you want with this, but like, what has been your biggest, other than finding food freedom, of course, what has been your biggest like takeaway or a big aha moment that stuck out to you throughout this process?
I think for me, the biggest thing that shocked me at the beginning of this journey, and that still has that moment with me, is just how damaging the dieting and constant dieting can do and be to your body. And I don't think you realize that when you're in a different mindset with dieting and you think that dieting is the best thing. And like I was that person that preached dieting. I'm like, oh, I'm on keto. Like everyone needs to do keto. Keto's the best. But you don't realize the damage you're doing to your body and your mind and your perspective of yourself and others, right? Like you start to judge people for eating a certain way when you were eating a certain way, a couple months ago before you found this magical diet that was supposed to work. But it's funny, and I totally remember this from the very beginning, is we constantly blame ourselves for the diet not working and that we don't have that willpower and we're weak. And really, it's the diet. They're not meant to work. And that's why it's $1 billion like your organization and industry is because it's made not to be successful. If you were successful, they would not make money with it, right? And I think that's the most it's a huge takeaway from this because I used to follow these big names in the diet industry and fitness industries, and now you look at them with a totally different perspective and it's almost toxic what they're saying. And I no longer would ever go on a diet, and I would never no longer blame myself for it not working out because there's a reason why it doesn't work out. So I think that was the biggest thing. And it's almost frustrating, right? Because I spent so much money and time and just energy in the next diet that's gonna work and I'm gonna get this picture perfect body that I ever wanted. But what's to say that my body is not perfect now? It's perfect to me now, right? It's not a size 2, but who cares? I'm happy with the way that I am. So I think that was the biggest thing. And I've said this a million times before, even when I talk to other people, I'm like, I would never expect my 100-pound American bulldog to be a Chihuahua. So why do we look at each other and expect that we should all be the same, right? We should all look the same. So I think that was the biggest eye opener was just, it was weird that I'd never seen that before. I'd never looked at a diet as being the failure. Like yeah, it's weird. And there's the analogy too of like the if you took your vehicle to the auto shop every week because something was breaking down, you would blame the auto shop and be like, what are you doing wrong? Where like we fail at diets every week. We have that, oh, I'm gonna start on Monday. And then it fails and we blame ourselves. So I think that's where the biggest takeaway and the biggest like aha moment and like the thing that really stops me from ever looking at dieting again, or like I see a diet now and it's like, oh, try this Whole30 or whatever the next thing is. And I'm like, no, cancel, block, don't want to see it, hide this. Yeah, no, I think that was the biggest eye opener.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. One of my favorite Instagram accounts, The Nutrition Tea, on Instagram, she always says, block and be blessed. And I'm like, yes, that's such good feedback as anything that doesn't align with your values or intuitive eating or what you're working towards, just get rid of it because we don't need that. We do not need to waste our energy or our time on that. So last question here. If a friend came to you and said, should I work with Find Food Freedom? What would you say to them and why?
I would say 100%. I do it over again, 100 times over. You guys have, and you and your team have been absolutely amazing, so supportive, so helpful. And I would never be where I am today with my body and my health and my perspective on food. Like I would never have gotten to where I am without you guys. So I would 100 times over recommend Find Food Freedom.